Holy fuckballs, 2020 was a horrible year, wasn't it? Businesses had to shut down, the world is still in disarray even as the new year takes its first breaths. Things are very much still on fire, people are still very much dying, and a lot of media industries have taken massive hits. Not least of which is sport, and what better sport to promote social distancing than the sport of two fighters giving each other open wounds in close quarters face punchery. Dana White and his company of Tritonus has, in spite of the global crisis, managed to turn into absolute bangers over the year of 2020. It's a shame that not a lot of people could go to watch them, but don't you worry, I've been a good little man-child this year and gathered 10 fighters that I thought were the horse meets bollocks. I do want to get some honourable mentions out of the way first, so Ricardo Lamas vs Bill Algeo, Munir Lazzez vs Abdul Razak Al Hassan, Kai Kara France vs Brendan Royval, James Krause vs Trevor Giles, and Kylie Phillips vs Gabriel Silva. Now, onto the list proper. Number 10, Brett Johns vs Tony Gravely. It's an often stated fact that the lighter divisions often give the best fights, as is evidenced by literally this entire list. I won't start with the fight that ended with a finish though, because fights that ended a finish often feel abrupt or unearned. But Welshman Brett Johns scraped and clawed his way to his rear naked choke win over Tony Gravely on that night in Rayleigh back when we had crowds. I miss crowds in the UFC so badly. Anyway, the entire fight was entertaining as all hell, with some of the most exciting wrestling you're ever likely to see inside of an 8-sided cage. And with that, great strike exchanges, type BJJ skills, and a hyped up crowd, and you get one of the best finishes of the year, as well as one of the best fights, and a really good way to kick off this list. Number 9, Nathaniel Wood vs Casey Kenny. Speaking of talent from the UK, let's get a bit more of it. This fight was technically not supposed to happen, and as the UFC has so much talent on tap, they can make a change with the flick of the wrist. In this case, that change was definitely for the better. Despite Casey coming in slightly overweight, here Nathaniel Wood had an absolutely blindingly technical brawl, and it doesn't hurt that this fight was genuinely close. I said as much when I actually reviewed this fight in 2020, but Wood pinched round 1, Casey started to come back in round 2, and in round 3 they just started going at each other. What was a closer unanimous decision win than you would like to think? Casey would get the win, but both men would be made stars on that night. Number 8, Dan Hooker vs Paul Felder. Dan Hooker is one of the top blokes going in the lightweight division, and he had 2 absolute bangers this year. We'll get to the other one a bit later in the list, spoiler alert, but for now let's talk about his fight with Paul Felder. Felder is, and has always been, one of the most underrated strikers in the division, and Hooker has a lot of finishes on his record, so many were thinking we would get the same results as in a lot of Hooker's previous fights. But Paul showed up to work and let Hangman Dan know that his job wasn't going to be easy. Both men tore the roof off for their main event in Hooker's home of Auckland, New Zealand, and while the crowd was understandably behind Hooker, who would win, the sheer amount of blood and energy that both men left across 25 minutes is not something that I'll forget easily, and is definitely one worth going back on, I think. Number 7, Josh Emmett vs Shane Burgos. Often when there's a fight between a tried and tested warrior and a young up-and-comer, it's not this good. Josh Emmett and Shane Burgos spit in the face of that argument, then punch that face until the argument is drinking through a straw. Josh Emmett is one of the toughest SOBs going in the sport, and Shane Burgos is a talent on the verge of breaking into the upper levels of the featherweight division. While Shane didn't get the win here, boy did he give Josh a good run for his money. The two men put on 15 minutes of action that almost never lit up, with referee Jason Herzog doing a great job too. It was a closer fight than the scorecards would have you believe, and it's also just a great showing of how good the 145-pound division can be, and how good these two men are. Number 6, Kai Kamaka III vs Tony Kelly. I have a tendency to highlight exciting new talents in divisions when I do FOTN reviews, but in this case neither man has a wiki page. Yet. Hopefully another great showing between these two will get them both one, which, as we know, is the true prize of being an MMA fighter. Anyway, yeah, this fight was great. Kai Kamaka and Tony Kelly both showcased some incredible technical striking when they weren't clinched up or on the ground, and being good there too. In one of the closer fights of the year, these two newcomers left it all in the cage, and despite Kelly being hurt early and eventually losing the fight, he did manage to hang in there and not only survive the 15-minute spectacle, but he fought his ass off to stay in it. Hopefully these two can run this one back, because I would love to see that. Number 5, Davison Figueiredo vs Brandon Moreno. The last fight of the night winner of 2020, the most recent one, the only draw on the list, and what a showcase this was for both guys. I'm a big Brandon Moreno fan, so I was excited that he even got a shot at Figgy for the flyweight title. I expected a great fight, but this was exceptional. This is another case of letting two of the best in the division get in there and do their own thing. The fact that Brandon was gaining advantage up until the groin shot that cost Davison a point in the third round speaks volumes of how great this one was. It was an exciting, ferocious scrap with a lot of surprising moments, and if there's one fight on this list that should be rematched, it's this one. Make it happen, Dana. Even though you don't watch these videos, make it happen anyway. Number 4, Angela Hill vs Michelle Waterson. I know I've brought it up a lot, but the lack of a crowd has hurt a lot of admittedly really good fights. I can't help but wonder how much more elevated this fight would have been had it happened in front of a live audience. Two of the most underrated in the women's strawweight division championing at the bit to rise further in the ranks, and both of them knew that fact. There is not a moment wasted in the fight, as each round has something different in it, and it's all really exciting. The sharp boxing, flashy big moves, amazing grappling, close calls, all culminating in one of the best 5th rounds in any women's division fight ever. Yep, there's a reason that this fight's so good, because it makes us statement for both women, and that statement is that you all should look out for the strawweights come 2021. Number 3, Dan Hooker vs Dustin Poirier. In all honesty, this one shouldn't be this high on the list. Looking at them back to back, Dan's fight with Felder is a much closer affair. But this fight, much like all the others on the list, has two great fighters just putting on a great fight. In another main event slot for the New Zealander against the Louisiana native, Dustin was a much bigger step up in terms of skill compared to Felder. Also, this fight was a bit less ambiguous with the UD call for Dustin as the winner. But then I decided that I didn't really care about that. This fight is just an amazing, hard-fought and heart-wrenching contest from start to finish, proving why both men could carry the future of the division. Unless Conor McGregor beats Dustin in their rematch later this year. I really hope that doesn't happen, but it might. Number 2, Justin Gaethje vs Tony Ferguson. Feel like God just hates the possibility of Tony Ferguson ever fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov. Seriously, that bearded bastard, God not Khabib, has prevented this fight from happening on multiple occasions, and with the pandemic in 2020, Khabib vs Tony had to be cancelled again. So, who stepped up? Justin Gaethje, motherfucker. Honestly, we may never get Khabib Tony, but I'll happily take this one in its place. These two put on a brutal stand-up war across 5 rounds in what's easily the bloodiest fight on this list. After Herb Dean's merciful stoppage in the 5th and final round, Tony was busted up badly, but Justin knew that they put each other to the test, and hopefully these two will carry the lightweight division on their backs for years to come. I really want to see this one go again. It was really, really good. And number 1, Weili Zhang vs Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I mean, how the fuck could this not be my fight of the year? How? This fight just gets so many things right. If anyone had any doubts that Weili Zhang could carry the division, those doubts were quelled in this fight. And if anyone doubted the division's success without Joanna leading it, those doubts were also squashed. This is 25 minutes of straight up heart-throbbing, beautiful violence. Every strike mattered, every clinch counted, every wound collected, every audience response grew and grew through the entirety of the fight. These two put on maybe the best fight of the 2020 so far, and it's a fight that proved 3 things. The strawweight division has a bright future with Zhang as the figurehead, Joanna has officially passed the torch to Zhang, and finally, this is the best UFC bout of 2020. So that's the end of the list. Are there any that you disagree with? Are there any that you agree with? Let me know if you feel so inclined to. I will see you all tonight for more PPW vs AVW. And, for those who are actually watching my Twitch channel, yeah, I'm going to be streaming a lot more often this year. I think that's just like a resolution in my mind. And also, I'll see you in the next few days for new stuff I'm going to be doing. I am going to get to work on the backtracking season finale, eventually. Maybe next week. And, yeah. So, the next thing you'll see me for will probably be the top 10 honorable mention albums of 2020. Hopefully I'll get that out tomorrow. And we'll just see where the year takes us. I hope that you had a good Christmas. I hope that you had a good New Year. I really hope that 2021 is a lot kinder to all of us than 2020 was. So, yeah, I'll see you for the next thing. Thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.